I am from a haunted house. I've kind of grown up in the countryside in like the East Midlands of the UK, and
Mm.
I've always lived in the same house, and I have a big family. And yeah, it's just like a very, very old house, and it's very quirky. And yeah, I feel like I should be scared of it, but I'm not, because I've lived here forever and it feels like home. It's like I feel like it's kind of raised me in a way. It's such a big part of who I am.
Yeah.
But yeah, my friends are always like, "There's definitely ghosts here, Holly. This is a terrifying place because it's like kind of weird. Like we've got this like weird basement, and there's like frogs down there and like dungeons and stuff. Honestly, it's weird. I wrote The Walls Are Way Too Thin after I moved away. I moved out of the house to London like Septembers ago, not last year, but the year after, the year before. And yeah, I moved away from this house where I've always lived, away from my family, and into a tiny little flat with strangers in Southeast London. And it was a bit of a whim. And I don't really know why I did it now, because thinking back, it was a bit silly not having like planned or done research. But yeah, I just found that I like London's such a huge place and it's so busy and there's so much going on. And yeah, I just found that I kind of just became kind of anxious and so introverted and just didn't really leave my room a lot. And then yeah, awkward house shares with people that you don't really know. Like so many people have had the same sort of experiences.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I just
No
kind of didn't
roommate
really
issues, right? Those are the worst.
no major ones, but and it's just kind of awkward and you don't really know them, and it's just kind of like you hear them coming down the corridor and you're like, oh, I'll wait for them to get back in their room before I come out to go to the toilet. Do you know what I mean?
This is your opportunity to put them on blast, because now you're doing press. You could like, Jessica's so annoying.
Yeah.
Jessica doesn't have press.
Yeah.
Ryan's the worst.
Yeah. It really was like, it was kind of like that. I think they turned out to be actually quite nice people. I'm still friends with one of them. But like, when you move on your own, and I'd never lived really away from my family before. So it was just kind of like just a stressful situation for me. And I kind of spent like a lot of the time in my room. And yeah, that's kind of what the song is about, really. But
so
yeah,
it's not a spooky house, it's a spooky situation, really.
It is a spooky situation. The song that came before The Walls Are Way Too Thin was called Haunted House, which I did write about this house.
Yeah.
And just about being told that we had to leave and stuff like that. It was really sad because I feel like it's such a big part of me, and I can't really picture my family in any other place than this house. It feels like a family member to me. So yeah, that's Haunted House. And then Walls Are Way Too Thin was moving away from the house into London and being a bit overwhelmed by everything. But yeah.
I mean, transitions are super crazy. They're difficult. You learn a lot about yourself that perhaps you didn't want to, and it makes you realize even your old relationships too, of kind of like, was I always this way and nobody told me? Do you feel like that is kind of what your new music and what's coming ahead is observing, just all these things you're learning about yourself during this major shift?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think the first EP that I released was kind of about experiences that I had in this house when I was finishing school, and just I wrote lots of it here, and it was like pretty much all from this. It was all kind of made from this house. Lots of things that were going on here. All the videos were filmed here. And then the second EP, which I'm in the process of releasing now, is kind of about like the stage after that I kind of went through, the few years where I felt like I was leaving all of these things from my childhood behind, and I was kind of processing having actual responsibilities and living on my own and being kind of an adult, living away from my family and all the things that I'm used to, and all the things that were kind of sacred. So yeah, a lot of the EP is kind of about the next step. After leaving home, and me just writing's always been kind of my comfort space, and it's the place that I can go to like process everything, and to like make sense of a lot of the changes that I'm going through, because I feel like it's a confusing stage of life, sometimes I'm kind of unsure of who I am, and I don't really know what I'm doing with my life and like what direction I'm going in, so I feel like writing has been a really, really good, like positive space that's kind of a constant that I can always come back to. And that's where a lot of this next EP's kind of come from. But yeah.
No, I mean, that was actually one of my questions. I was going to ask you if you felt like music was giving you stability and even kind of helping you figure out that you just can't figure things out, as odd as it may seem.
Yeah, for sure. That's so true. Like,
can you hear me?
Yeah, for sure. No, that's yeah. Sorry, I can hear you. My internet's really terrible. I'm just gonna.
Okay.
It's
like
really
you
bad.
froze
Sorry.
and it did this like weird.
I'm in the middle of nowhere because I'm actually at the haunted house right now.
Yes, with the
And
frogs hanging out.
Yes, exactly. With the wildlife. But yeah, it has been a safe space, and I think quite a lot of the time I'm just like a very chaotic energy person, and like a lot of the time I'm quite in my head a lot, and I have all these things that I'm going through, and I find it really tricky to like make sense of it all. And then I'll write a song and it kind of puts it into a simpler format for me, and I can kind of understand things better. And yeah, it's like a simpler format for me to kind of see, so it's kind of working through those confusing thoughts and putting it into a simpler format for me to understand. And then I guess people like connect to that quite a lot because it's just kind of me trying to figure stuff out.
Yeah. Was there a specific thought or emotion that you found in the music that you were like, that's in me, that's how I see myself?
Kind of, yeah. It's interesting. Like I do learn quite a lot about myself whilst writing. Like sometimes I write on my own, and sometimes I write in sessions with other people. But I always kind of have to be in a space that I feel comfortable in, or with people that I trust. But yeah, a lot of the time I do surprise myself, and I'm like, oh, that's how I'm feeling about that. Yeah, it is interesting. But yeah, a lot of the time it's really nice for me to sit down and write something, and then I've kind of been writing about something that's been stressing me out, or that I'm finding hard to like come to terms with or process. And then it's so nice to be able to make something into a song, and it just feels kind of complete and just like really satisfying. And I feel like a weight's been lifted, every time. But yeah, I learn so much about myself when I'm writing and when I'm like really digging deep into my soul. But yeah, I love it. It's therapeutic.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, I have yet to meet the artist that doesn't feel like music. The two things that you said, that music is therapy and that they're a little bit of chaotic. I feel like every artist has a little bit of chaos, particularly a chaos leaning towards like, I want to say depression and frustration with the world, a sense of powerlessness. I'm curious if you feel like that is embedded in artists, or you feel like that's a specific thing that comes from artists in these days, where I feel like nowadays youth is particularly lost and disillusioned. Like the world is crazier than ever. We just went through a global pandemic.
Yeah, for sure. But I think it's always been crazy for people growing up, and it's always been confusing and like a weird time. I don't think that's changed massively. Maybe, I don't know. This is just what I think. But yeah, I do also really love how it's becoming like almost like a bit of a trend to like really overshare and to talk about your feelings in music. Like I think there's so many, especially like young females like myself who are writing about like their deepest thoughts, and they're like, it's oversharing like to the maximum, but it's like so comforting for other people to listen to. Like over lockdown, I like relied so heavily on music like that. Like when Phoebe Bridgers released her album, I was like, thank God, like a comfort space, like somebody else being vulnerable that I can connect to and that I can find comfort in. So I just feel like it's just becoming more okay to talk about stuff that's maybe people didn't feel as comfortable talking about before or something. But yeah, it's nice. I love how people are oversharing. I feel like we're all going through these weird things together, It's so nice to know that other people are having the same thoughts as me,
Yeah. I like that idea, the oversharing trend. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it really is a thing. yeah, I'm loving it though. Like, I just think, yeah, the messages that I've received from people who were like, I really connect to your song. Like, I wrote my first song, it's called Deep End, the first song I released, and it was about like my sister was struggling with depression, and I was like, how am I supposed to help her? I feel really frustrated at her and angry at her for not wanting to help herself, but also I love her and I want to do what's best for her, and I don't want to like make things worse. I just didn't know how to help her. And like for me, there wasn't really a song out there that I could listen to and be like, oh, she's going through the same thing as me, or this guy's going through the same thing as me. Like, this is a really common situation to be in, which of course it was, but nobody had put a song out like that. And I've received so many messages about that song, just saying like, this is exactly what I'm feeling with my sister or my best friend or my boyfriend or whatever. Yeah, it's just nice to know that maybe it can be a little bit comforting for someone else, or maybe it can be like that song for someone else. Yeah.
100%. I mean, I spoke to another artist who, she wrote this song about a friendship breakup, and, the label changed it into a more romantic song. But she said exactly like you, like, it's great to write songs that are really, really nuanced and specific, because they're not out there. Like, people don't talk about helping a sibling through depression. Like, that's a very specific song that I could read through 1,000 press releases and not have anyone be about that.
Sure. I think just being like emotionally like really vulnerable in a song, like I could be talking about like a relationship that I'm going through, or even myself or something, but I think just being vulnerable and just being really truthful and honest, like people will find a way to connect to it, and will, yeah, just maybe feel a bit more connected to me as a person, as well. Which is nice that we can kind of be connected in that way, I guess, when nothing much else is really connecting us. Yeah.
100%. And then they adapt it too. Like, I feel like every song gets adapted to your life, which is why artists are consistently surprised that they're at how people interpret their songs.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's nice to be, obviously you have to be emotionally like vulnerable and stuff, but I interpret songs in different ways, in ways that are going to help me more, but yeah, it's cool. It's a cool thing. I like that about music, and yeah, I literally find so much comfort in doing that sort of thing. So yeah.
Well, then how do you feel? You just rescheduled. Wrapping up the interview, my final question is there a movie or a book or even a TV show that you think would be a great concept album? Like, you could just take that idea and plug it into a song or album.
Have you ever seen Adventure Time?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I just love Adventure Time. And I think like there's so many like deep things going on there. Like, I think actually it's kind of embarrassing, but on my Spotify Wrapped, like for last year, like one of my most listened, like in my top 5 songs, was that Adventure Time song, Remember You.
Yeah.
Do you know that?
No, I do.
Oh God, cry.
I'm just shocked. You're like the first person who's ever said Adventure Time, or even a cartoon, actually. You've shook me with this response.
It'd be amazing. Like, I think there's so many like amazing love stories between like father and daughter, like that is just heartbreaking. Like, I think it's too emotionally complex for little kids, to be honest, because I watch it and I'm like like, this is deep.